When you just sit and mess around with the sliders and the settings to customize 2K25 to play as realistic as possible, it's really incomparable to any other sports game I've pretty much ever played. And if you know me, right around the trade deadline is where I do my best work. So let's dive right into it. Back again with the most realistic sliders that I could come up with for 2K25, of course displaying realistic gameplay and stats between a 48-minute contest. Now this is a pretty ambitious video because it's been a minute since I've dropped something, but I've been quietly working on this set for this year, and I want to make sure I cover every single thing that I can within this set that I've been tweaking for the last 3 or 4 months. So take a ride with me as we get into the details. And shout out to all my subscribers and all the sim gamers out there as well. So without further ado, the 3 pillars of the slider set revolves around the foundation, some golden rules, and of course gameplay. First, let's get into the foundation. So these were built specifically for my NBA mode and for authentic modern era NBA basketball. And from the perspective of a true-to-life gamer like myself, it's about seeing a full 48-minute game of basketball come to life and all the dynamics that can happen, such as, the pace of the game, momentum swings, when to make adjustments, when to take timeout, switching up your scheme, all in real time. And with so many variables, it makes every game feel different with unpredictable outcomes. And the good thing is that you don't feel slighted, but you feel rather invested, which ultimately is what keeps you coming back. But at the core, the number one thing is having fun. And I'm telling y'all, making shots that you didn't expect to go in or seeing your game plan be executed properly, whether you win or lose, it's about coming back for more. And that's the cornerstones of why I do this. All right, next, let's get into the golden rules behind this slider set. Number 1, your team. Getting to know all of your players, their specific badges, what stands out on their attribute sheet, and how they can be beneficial for your association. Now, before y'all go, I know, kits, just hear me out. A really challenging slider set will give you a run for your money. So even understanding a player's attributes such as his strength can go a long way depending on a game situation. My intention on these sliders is to enable you to not overlook all of those little things that could really enhance the experience. So for this set, knowing your personnel is crucial. Number 2, your scheme. So with your personnel in mind, how will you set them up for success for 82 games? What's the base for your offense? What plays do you want specifically for your star players versus your role players? How will you allocate your minutes? Who will be your step-up guys when your starters go down from injuries? You get the picture. And the concept is seeing a living and breathing world within your association as you manage your team throughout the season. So when you lose the Giannis by 30, don't get at me. Redo your matchups, my guy. Number 3 under scheme is knowing your players' shot releases. Now, this is simple. It's something that I think that we all do as we play with a team. But again, you won't be able to just wing it even if you're wide open. Take the time to know each player's shot timing and form. It'll be essential in very important game situations, as you already know. And I do have to mention that I do play without the shot meter on. I do play without the shot timing notification as well. So I do it all from just visual cues, and I just like that suspense of not knowing whether it's gonna go in or not and relying on my skill. So give that a try if you haven't before, but if it's too difficult, keep it where it works for you. Now let's dive into the real meat and potatoes of the starter set and get into the gameplay. So with this year's set, I focused on 5 main parts of the gameplay. Those 5 things we're gonna discuss is shooting, rebounding, defense, movement, and physicality and fouls. So the first thing, let's cover shooting. This year out of the box, they let you hit a little bit more contested shots than normal, but I still felt like the clamps were there. So y'all know me, I returned to my classic shot versus contest settings, and I'm able to still hit shots like this with the defender's hand in my face or highly contested, because in real life, sometimes it just goes in. And that's the level of unpredictability that I love displaying in this game. It makes it more exciting that I can make contested shots from pretty much any range, and I'm more confident just taking shots that I just really want to take. And yes, the CPU will hit the same kind of shots on you as well. And it's really fun to pull up on a fast break for 3, as you can see right here with Bridges, and also getting to their spot. So Bridges is a mid-range shooter as well, and as you can see, getting to a spot is really fun. I do the same thing here with LaVine, and you'll find yourself just taking a larger variety of shots. You'll see the same thing with the CPU, which will have you playing a lot more honest on defense too. This year, I believe I've achieved my best settings for layups ever. And if it's one word to describe how it feels, it's natural. It feels really good to be able to go into the lane and get a bucket, sometimes draw a foul. But number 1, you just really get that essence of being able to just feel that physicality, get the bumps, and be able to finish right at the rack. Expect the same from the CPU, so it forces you to really have to body up. which brings us to the balance of layups and how they miss. Because like in real life, sometimes you can over pursue when you're attacking the basket with too much velocity, over pursuing an angle, and it just feels really natural even on the misses, to where it just creates more of that unpredictability that I like. So alongside missing from contests, you can also miss wide open layups from time to time. And the last thing for shooting, let's talk about close and inside scoring. So really wanted to balance out those paint battles with the bigs. Of course, your better players will shine more than others, but you can see here, even with small forwards and guards, Jimmy Butler misses the initial layup, but gets the putback over two defenders highly contesting them. So just those 50-50 wins from time to time, you just never know. But one thing's for sure, you will have an opportunity to make those higher percentage shots. And I definitely took the time to study those inside shot percentages at the end of games just to make sure that it wasn't too high, with percentages ranging between the 60s and the 70s. But we'll dive deeper into the stats later in this video. Now on to the next feature when it comes to gameplay, we're going to talk about rebounding. Out of all my slider sets, this is something I never really tweaked to the capacity that I have this year, and I'm loving the results so far. So understand this, what I wanted to achieve was a broader spread of rebounding stats across different positions, giving a more accurate representation of smaller guards and skill guys being able to accumulate more rebounds within a game. And so what you see is Mobley could have easily gotten that rebound with his skills, but Garland is there in position to grab it himself. And so what I've done is drastically drop down the rebounding slider for both the CPU and the user, not necessarily making it completely evened out. But what this does is, instead of seeing your centers and power forwards accumulate 10 and 12 and 13 and 17 rebounds a game, you'll begin to see those stats trickle down to your smaller players where they're able to get, 3 to 4 to sometimes 7 and 8 rebounds. So it's refreshing to see those stats for a point guard or a shooting guard to not only be on the lower end of rebounding, but able to participate in that part of the game, get triple doubles and more. And the good thing is that we have badges so that it distinguishes players who do have better rebounding skills. And to compensate for the lower rebounding setting, I did raise the vertical setting globally. Next on our list for gameplay is defense. Now watch this clip as Garland kind of rocks me to sleep, but I'm trying to play on-ball defense and I'm playing off because I know he's going to blow by, which he does, and he gets the tough basket. With this set, staying in front of your player will be a bit more challenging, forcing you to have to decide whether to play off more, shading more to the left or right. You'll see here Desmond Bane beats me to a spot quicker than I can recover, makes the wide open mid-range. The next point I want to cover is help defense. So when it comes to rotations and doubling and icing and hedging a player, I wanted the experience of game planning those things to feel more rewarding. As you just saw, we forced a bad pass on a rotation. You can really play more aggressive, putting more pressure on ball handlers, double teaming, going for on-ball steals, etc. Now I did some good fine-tuning the blocking as well, just to reflect the proper stats by the end of the game. And I do like the fact that smaller guards are still able to get proper blocks when you contest right. As you can see with Giddey here on Lillard, I was able to stop him on the fast break and get a hand up, and everything feels really balanced here. But again, on-ball defense, you will have to play honest. You give them too much space, they will take the shot, as you see with Scary Terry. Now, as a bonus, when it comes to steals, I'm still working on the type of steals that we see more often in the game. Right now, it's usually more intercepted passes, which kind of sometimes feels a little bit cheesy when you're trying to run pick and rolls, etc. But the stats do pan out correctly, so for now, I don't have a problem with how it is. Next, let's get into player movement. So when it comes to movement, I did speed up the overall game speed to 54. Anything higher than this threshold to the eye begins to make the animation seem a little bit too fast. But this works for the proper pacing that I like. I also did increase the player speed to 75 across the board on the sliders, just giving the experience of the game a little bit more flow. I did take down the movement speed without the ball just slightly so that you can have more fast break experiences, and for the CPU as well. Another intangible change I made was to agility, which does affect on-ball defense and how your player moves on offense. And on default, I just felt like it was too high, and with it lower, it does feel a little bit more natural and more challenging. And moving on to the last feature of these sliders that I could not wait to talk about is physicality and fouls. And so these two things kind of go hand in hand. I believe the fouls kind of regulate the level of physicality in the game. So you want to see fouls to help shine the light on how physical the game is actually playing out. And so one of the things I'm really enjoying about this set are the collision fouls, the charges, the blocking fouls, and just that overall physicality of trying to stay in front of the ball handler. And I'm realizing that with a lower on-ball defense and agility set across the board for both the user and the CPU, it's enforcing more scenarios of collision fouls to occur. And so the foul settings are just one thing, but when it goes in tandem with player movement settings, the way the tendencies are in terms of how they contest shots, attack the basket, the player's stamina, you really begin to see all the variables that play into the foul calling system. Because it's more challenging to stay in front of the ball handler, if you attempt to cut them off too late and they're already downhill, chances are they'll either get the basket or the call. And the same thing in your favor as well. But witnessing the variety of different foul calls in a game definitely makes the experience more immersive, creates exciting scenarios, and forces you to manage how you'll play defense and the fouls your players accumulate. And so that pretty much covers the gameplay side of things and the 3 pillars that I built this slider set on. And before I go, let's discuss how this all plays into the numbers and stats of the game. And so the spreads on today's stats is wider than ever. So from final scores to field goal percentages and attempts across the board, you have to leave room for the dynamics of the numbers to take place. Because these stats casts a wider net, try not to be too fidgety with the outcomes. So high scores, low scores, both higher and lower percentages. Think of it more of a range or a threshold of numbers that we want to kind of stay within. So for instance, because teams are averaging over 100 points per game, well up into the 120s, if you're seeing scores consistently lower than 100, then something is off with your numbers, which means you're out of range or threshold of the numbers that are true to life. And that's the goal of these sliders, is to not only give you great gameplay and great results, but also great numbers to look at the end of the contest. I don't know what it is, but it's something satisfying about comparing my numbers in the game to real life stats that gives me some sense of achievement from my efforts. So if you want to give this slider set a try, just go to 2K Share and look up King Sim Kits, change your game speed to 54, put it on 12-minute quarters, and be sure to adjust things to your liking or your skill level as well. And when I almost forgot, make sure you have fun. Till next time.